where the Nigerian President Ahmed Tinubu is very happy with the performances of Eniola Bolaji, a badminton player at the ongoing Paralympic Games. The 18-year-old made history by winning bronze medal in the women's badminton SL3 category, being the very first African athlete to secure a medal at the badminton Paralympic Games. This is sharing. No African so far had bet Eniola winning a medal at the Paralympic Games.
I think it's a very cheering news for the Badminton Federation and to Nigeria and to Africa as a whole, because I think for Eniola Bolaji, she's been able to at least make a difference out there, because no African player have ever won any medal at the badminton event in the international scene. So for me, I think it is a very big one, and the encomium that she's receiving from different quarters is truly deserving because of her exploits.
Talking about the exploits of Eniola, who have won a bronze medal at the ongoing Paralympic Games, the first African so far in 2024 to win the medal at the Games going on in Paris. Talking about medals for Nigerians, or Africans, so to say, at the Paralympic Games, Team Nigeria have seen the exit of Christiana Alabi, Abiola Adesope, and of course Kayode Alabi from the table tennis event. But there seems to be just one medal hope for Nigeria in table tennis.
It's a big struggle. It's a big struggle for us in this year's Paralympic game event, especially for the angle of tennis, where we had some level of pride because we actually won, some medals in terms of the table tennis event. I mean, this is one of the areas where we expected some of our players or some of our athletes, to at least get something. The table tennis event and also powerlifting. These are some of the key areas where we always amass a medal. And for me, it's quite disappointing. 7 out of 8, table tennis players have been hosted out of the competition, and we just have our hope, and our egg is now placed on one man to shoulder the burden of making sure that at least we win something out of the table tennis event. For me, it has been a struggle for Team Nigeria generally in the ongoing Paralympic Games.
Talking about table tennis, one of the areas where Nigeria had hoped making medals, we saw 7 out of 8 table tennis players crash out. Meanwhile, we have Adebola, who has maintained his journey so far over. He's the only hope right now in the table tennis event. This one man who we hope he can join Eniola to get to the podium as the maybe second African and the second Nigerian to at least get to the podium at the Paris Paralympic Games, because like we mentioned before, we are not into so many sports, but I think it could just turn out to be one where Nigeria has not had a very good outing. Across, still at the Olympic Games, we understand Paralympic Games, former Russian athlete Tatiana Koshava has been stripped of her 2020 Olympic 1,500 silver medal for doping. This is coming from the Court of Arbitration for Sports, and if you are stripped, it remains stripped.
Yeah, I think for me, I'm rather very disappointed about the long duration where it took the Court of Arbitration for Sport, talking about CAS, to come out with this decision, because don't forget,
10-year ban.
Yes, a 10-year ban, and this is a doping offense that took place in 2012. 2012 till now is about 12 years down the line. So for me, I think I'm very worried about the longevity of the years it took them before they could come up with this decision, because a 10-year ban for an athlete that is 48 right now. So before she could finish serving her 10-year ban, she should be 58 or thereabouts. So for me, I think this is another angle they need to also consider. Quick decision of justice will be more preferable for me, because you don't wait until 5 years, 7 years, 10 years. This one we are talking about is 12 years down the line, and this is when they are coming up with such a decision. I think for me, in as much as it is a good one to serve as a deterrent to others who may want to take drug enhancing performance things or steroid of that nature, they will keep away from it. But the long time that it took them before coming up with this decision is the only angle I'm not very much satisfied about.
Legal tussles there, but eventually it's been a 10-year ban for the corporate. You don't or do I say taint your system. Meanwhile, we'll get back to the local scene where President of the Badminton Federation of Nigeria, Francis Obi, has reiterated the essence of Lagos International Badminton Classic, whose 7th edition was concluded at the weekend in Lagos, Nigeria. Badminton is beginning to gain prominence here in Nigeria with the organization of several events under Francis Obi.
Yes, especially the one that take place in Lagos State, where we have so many foreign players also coming in this very one. I think if we can also sustain this, developmental process of continue to organize active game, maybe quarterly or half a year or yearly basis, it can go a whole long way to also help us to harness more talent out of it. But one interesting aspect of this year's edition is that the regular fees is the regular country. Talking about India, they continue to have a total dominance because they wiped away about 4 gold medals out of 5. 4 out of 5. So for me, I think the Indians, they continue to dominate their proceedings. One may say, well, we hosted and we couldn't win anything. It is not all about hosting and winning it. It's about discovering talent, which for me, I think, should be the line of thought out there. But then big congratulations to, the Indians who also, cleared all the, medals, almost all, because like I said earlier, 5, they won 4 out of 5 golds.
Badminton in favor of India in the just concluded event in Lagos. We just hope that there could be further scouting from this tournament because we need to have Nigeria's very best. Indians have taken 4 out of 5 gold medals in this edition, but let's hope that talents are being discovered from the event. Let's go to basketball, and starting with basketball in the local scene here, defending champions, Mountain of Fire Basketball Club in the female category have all won their first 2 games at the Women Basketball Championship ongoing in Lagos. One of the conferences, that's the Atlantic Conference, entered into very top gear, at the weekend.
Yeah, I think it's a very exciting one when he actually kicked off, over the weekend. I think I'm very excited because it will also help us to continue to develop, basketball. Now that basketball in the country is on the surge, you saw what Rivers Hoopers did in the just concluded African Championship, where we were able to make a name for ourselves. Then it transcends to the senior national team, talking about the D Tigress, winning the Afro Basketball Championship under Rena Wakama within a short period of time that she was drafted into the team to, tinker the team around. We also went to the Olympic Games, did pretty well, created record that no any African team has also done before, getting to the quarterfinal, beating teams that were ranked above us. So for me, I think it's a nice one. Hence, the league has kickstarted in NS, who should also do well to also monitor the progress of individual players from their different club side out there. And of course, if you head to the MFM, I think they have great players out there. First Bank as well, not also doing bad, winning their first 2 games to show that indeed they are still a force to be reckoned with, because First Bank, they were former champion, MFM defending champion, winning your 2 straight games. It clearly tells the other teams that indeed they are ready this time around.
Female basketball at the weekend, ensuring that we have some top teams. I remember Bayelsa Wills taking out Sunshine Angels in that fixture. It was 35-29 just a few days ago. And again, we've seen Delta Force defeat the Inspector General Police Queens 45-37 before losing to First Bank only yesterday. Meanwhile, the Savannah Conference is taking place in Lafia. That's in Nasarawa State, where Royal Aces yesterday defeated Air Warriors 64-63. Tight victory match, I must tell you. Nigerian Army walked over Titans 20-0 as the Nigerian Custom defeated Plateau Specs by 71-38. The last match of the day, of course, saw Nasarawa Babes losing 53-47 to Kada Angels. Meanwhile, across, let's do talking about basketball. Reminds me that several Nigerians have taken to social media to shade the South African consulate for initially denying Nigerian under 18 boys basketball players visas for the Afro Basketball Men under 18 competition ongoing in South Africa. But at the end of the day, head of the delegation Ugo Dweze confirmed that the team were later issued visas and they are already expected to arrive Pretoria today.
Yeah, I think it was quite disappointing when that news filtered in a few hours ago that the South African embassy denied our under-18 visa. And they were supposed to have their first game, that yesterday. I don't know how they are going to go about it. I learned that the Nigerian Basketball Federation actually reached out to the authority talking about FIBA to lodge the complaint against the South African. I think for me, it also boils down to how administratively we were up and doing, because I expected the Nigerian Basketball Federation, to have sorted these things out maybe a week, prior to this time. You don't wait until the dying minute before you start, sorting this kind of issue out. So for me, I think it's about, proper planning, making the right move, taking the right action at the right point in time. Because if we had taken the right move at the right point in time, maybe a week or even 5 days before now, we wouldn't be having this challenge of, the South Africa not issuing us a visa, which for me, I don't know what the intention were for the South African authority, but one thing is very certain that, at least we've, gotten the visa and the boys are there right now, but then it will go a whole long way to distract the players mentally. Immediately they heard that their visa were not granted, most of them will lose hope, most of them will lose their faith, and their confidence level will be very, very low. But let's hope that they can be able to at least find some positive away from all this distraction and get to play their game properly and achieve a positive result.
Positive result for Nigeria expected, but somehow I really don't understand the mix-up between the organizers of, the handlers of the under 18 boys, the Nigerian Basketball Federation. Their counterparts, the females, who was in Cote d'Ivoire for the qualifier, came back and they were granted visas. I would have thought that these visas would have been arranged at the same time when they went to the embassy for that of the girls. So for the boys as well. But in this instance, the under 18 girls had their visas and arrived on time, and the boys had to go into this mix-up that led to late arrival. I understand they were supposed to meet Egypt yesterday, but because of arrival of the team today, that had to be taken off the cards.
And that is why I'm trying to, throw the blame against the Nigerian Basketball Federation. If the under 18 girls had been granted visa even before yesterday that this visa issue came up, why not do that, simultaneously where they were organizing the visa for the female team as well? So it's about, not doing the right thing, like I said, at the right time. And of course, some of the delegation actually went to South Africa first, and they were waiting for our contingent to arrive. How do you leave, the real key players of the game behind, and you went there first to go there and settle down and wait for them? It doesn't work out that way. So I think we should be up and doing the right thing. When the under 18 girls were granted visa, what happened that those visa for the men category were not processed at the same time, so that it make it very easy? So it's about not properly organizing ourselves, because if we had, I don't think we should be facing this kind of issue of visa challenge from the South African authority.
Well, I would hope that there will be proper organization next time, and I hope the boys, as they arrive today, will be in a good state to continue in the competition. Let's stay away from that imbroglio in basketball and now go to tennis. And the US Open is the biggest tennis event ongoing right now in the world. And in Flushing Meadows, last night we saw qualifiers for the semi-final especially in the female version ongoing at Flushing Meadows. Aryna Sabalenka, finalist last year, has returned to the semi-final of this year's US Open. She took out a counterpart from China, Zheng Qing, in a straight set, 6-1, 6-2. It looks easy for the world number 2.
Very impressive display, especially when so many persons expected, this one to be a very tough game, considering the fact that the, Chinese was just coming back from victory at the Paris Olympic Games. You expected her to up her ante against Aryna Sabalenka, who also is not a very bad player at all. She's done well so far in the last 12 months, just that she has nothing tangible to show for it, talking about titles. And this is the last Grand Slam of the year. You expect some of these top guns to at least, be up and doing, so that they will finish very high for, the season. So for me, I think it was a big victory for Aryna Sabalenka, the world number 2. Let's hope that she can continue to fire from all cylinders, possibly get to the final and see if she can make this one count. Now that the defending champion has been knocked out early in the competition, I think the door is even open and wide open for Aryna Sabalenka to make it count.
Aryna Sabalenka in the semi-finals of the US Open. She has one more American to take care of. This time around, it will be Navarro. the home girl, and already she's appealing to the crowd to support her. Remember last year, it was Coco Gauff, American, and the crowd was very partisan. For the kind of crowd I saw last night at the Flushing Meadows, all of them supporting the American. Do you think her appeal of even buying drinks for the spectators will see the light of the day when she comes up against another home girl?
Yeah, just maybe an additional, motivation from the home fans. Of course, the Americans, they always want to support their own. It's about a rallying call, out there to come and for the Americans to queue behind her, give her that moral and physical support out there on the court so that she can deliver. But then it goes beyond getting the backings or the support of the fans out there. She needs to also do her own home job properly, because if you get the backing of the fans, the support of the fans, without you, perfecting your own game plan, it could also come back to hurt you. But like I said, if she does her homework properly, then also wait for the backings of the 12th men, talking about the fans out there, then I think it's going to be a positive addition for her going forward.
Well, today at the US Open, we'll see another top action in the female category. Iga Swiatek, world number 1 in the female tennis, is up against another American girl, Jessica Pegula.
Another big game, massive clash out there. And of course, the fans of Jessica Pegula also, going on social media to also drum the support as usual. But then for Iga Swiatek, I think she's not perturbed, because this is one player that have maintained the number 1 ranking for a quite long time as it is right now. There's nothing, not especially this year where she has not been able to win any major. She won't be bothered about the backing of the fans against her. I still think that Iga Swiatek has what it takes to overcome this very one and possibly get to the final.
World number 1, Iga Swiatek, up against world number 6, Jessica Pegula of the United States of America. It promises to be very thrilling later today. In a bid to qualify for the semi-final, Brazilian girl Beatriz Herder is up against an unseeded Mushukova. This one looks interesting. Beatriz from Brazil is rated as the world number 22 in female tennis, but coming up against a relatively, unseeded player. This promises to be, for me, maybe a one-sided affair. But this is tennis; it could go the other way.
Yeah, this is exactly what I wanted to say, but you took it off my mouth. This is tennis. It could go either way. For Beatriz Herder, a very good player, but then for the Brazilian as well, don't also forget Muchova. For this year's edition, we've seen so many shockers. We saw where a 74th ranked player was able to defeat the world number 2 as it is. We've seen relatively unseeded players as well, pulling upset, springing upset here and there in this year's US Open. So for me, I don't expect it to be a roller coaster ride for Beatriz Herder. It's going to be a very tough one, because the Brazilian, I tell you, having watched a clips of her game, she's also not a bad player at all, and anything can happen. But I expect the game to be a very, very tough encounter.
US Open ongoing in the United States of America with a massive crowd attendance at the games. One of the prominent spectators at the game is Roger Federer. You remember him, legend in tennis by all standards. What do you make of this year's attendance by Roger Federer? It looks like the very first after he has retired from tennis.
Yeah, I think I haven't retired from tennis, but then I think the allure and the love for tennis also keep him going. That is why I want to be, at the present where it is happening, talking about the US Open. This is a legend of the game. We can't take away what he's brought to the world of lawn tennis out there. So having him out there, at the US Open is a further, plus for the organizers out there, because that will also help to even increase the attendance of the fans out there. Don't forget that some of these fans who haven't, seen Roger Federer during his 8 days out there, but with this opportunity, I think so many of them out there want to turn out, to the court to cheer their, very players to victory, and also have a glimpse of Roger Federer after retirement. So for me, I think it's a good one for the competition itself.
Roger Federer, legendary tennis player at the US Open, out there. Let's see what is happening in the male category. Mike, it looks very interesting. After appearing 4 times at the quarterfinal stage and not progressing to the semi-final, Taylor Fritz right now has, in local palace, jumped and passed the quarterfinal stage at the US Open after beating Alexander Zverev in what looks like a cracker of a fixture. I watched that game from start to finish, in the early, I'd say late last night, and it was 7-6, 3-6, 6-4, 7-6. Alexander Zverev pushing Taylor Fritz despite the partisan support from the American crowd out there.
Yeah, what a scintillating game out there. It was more like a back and forth, keenly contested game per se. But then for me, I think I was surprised that Zverev, gave up because looking at their run this year in terms of their game plan, I think Zverev has been more active, in the last 12 months compared to Taylor Fritz. But then this is the game for you. You expect the unexpected. But it was an interesting game to watch, I tell you. At some point, the fans had to even, add more flair to it when they began to cheer, and some were booing out there as well. So for me, I think it's a big, big one for Taylor Fritz. Having make it 4 good times in this very stage without crossing it this time around might just be the stepping toes towards his success this year. But then there are still a lot of other big name players that you need to also start preparing ahead, because definitely you must come up against one of these big players.
Taylor Fritz, no doubt, getting to the semi-final of the US Open. No American in the last 21 years have been to the semi-final of the US Open. Now, with the return of, I think the last person was Rudik, who won in 2023 to qualify at the semi-final stage. So let's see. Daniil Medvedev is up. Is the other guy, and comes up against a very difficult opponent today.
Yeah, for Daniil Medvedev, I think he's been talking very tough against today's counter. He made it very clear yesterday when he was being interviewed that he's prepared and ready for whatever. So for me, I think it's going to be another big clash. We hope to see the best of long tennis out there. Most of the fans out there, even during the interview, were also, cheering already, promising to be there for him on the court this evening. And I tell you, it's going to be a very tough encounter, because
it comes from a very difficult player. Yannick Sinner,
world number one.
World number one in male tennis. Yannick Sinner from Italy is not playing badly so far after winning, of course, the what do you call it now? The medal, his first Grand Slam. He's looking at getting a second Grand Slam, and it looks like his performance so far at the US Open looks good enough for taking him to the final.
Yeah, possibly, because despite the fact that, he had a little bit of distraction before coming into this one, the distraction of being, cleared of any doping issues, where some of ex-players as well, took up to the social media to also air their own displeasure about the fact that he was cleared, to take part after, they fined him twice failing a dope test, but yet he was still cleared, though. He was fined with a heavy amount of money. Then some point he deducted away from his point. Coming into this year's US Open under that under that environment, so many persons thought that it's going to be more like a distraction and mentally not unstable for him to focus on this year's US Open. But then I think he has proven to many out there that he has the mental capacity to withstand some of these challenges and distraction, and that is why he has gotten to this far. So I tell you, like I said, it's going to be a very, very tough game, because this is the last Grand Slam of the year, and he didn't do well in the Olympic. So I believe he's going to use this one as his last shot to make at least a very, very good finish so far for this year. Not also forgetting the fact that he knows that Novak Djokovic and Carlos Alcaraz are closely behind him in terms of point and in terms of ranking. He definitely needs to win this one to at least get some more points and continue to stay as a world number one as it is right now. But all things being the same, we are expecting a very, very fantastic match today.
Very fantastic fixture coming up later today with Yannick Sinner and his opponent. And talking about what happened last night at the U.S. Open, we saw a situation where Tafio did emerge over Grigor Dimitrov. It was one encounter as well that was very fierce. And now, for the first time, we're having two Americans in the semi-final. I don't know which person in the crowd will be supporting that because we've seen very partisan support at the U.S. Open. But now it's going to be Tafio against Taylor Fritz. Both of them Americans, in the semi-final stage of the U.S. Open.
For Tafio, I think he did a very great job. But coming against Taylor Fritz, another American that have also had a massive, fan base. I think most of the fans will tilt towards the angle of, Taylor Fritz because of the fan base that he has out there. He has been very consistent in the last, years. He just couldn't discover his form, earlier this year, and that is why we've not seen him make any serious impact in most of the Grand Slam, for this year. And for Tefo, he's another player that is trying to revive back his career after losing that, that flair that we used to know of him. So I think the crowd will be divided, on either side. But I tell you, it's going to be a massive game because these two players will be ready, to at least make a very big, serious statement as they intend to come back to, serious reckoning, maybe with the likes of Yannick Sinner, Carlos Alcaraz, because in the past, there were some of the names that have been muted or that was being tipped to become the new gem, the new generation after the old hands. Maybe Rafael Nadal, Novak Djokovic, have left the scene, but then they never live up to that expectation. Before you could say that Yannick Sinner came from behind to challenge, and now he's toppling the world #1. But one thing is very certain, it's going to be an interesting game.
Very interesting fixture. If you remember, the last time we saw Americans, a pair of Americans in a major was 2005. That's like 19 years ago. We've never seen two Americans, at a crucial stage of a Grand Slam. So I think the Americans definitely, for this one taking place in New York, it will be an interesting one where we'll see where the support will go. Will it be for Tafio, who has been around for a while, or it will be one of the first entrants in the semi-finals, Taylor Fritz at the U.S. Open. We'll keep our fingers crossed on the latest happening from Flushing Meadows, the last Grand Slam of the year. When we return from the break this time, as we prepare, we'll bring you latest information coming from the world of football. A lot is happening, and I can tell you it is just about 48 hours to the very crucial encounter between the Super Eagles of Nigeria and their counterparts from Benin Republic in a bid to qualify for the 2026 World Cup. Will us in the Guavara side be able to Ghana? We understand most of the players are in camp, just but 3 are being expected in Uyo ahead of this clash. When we return from the break, we'll have a lot of details from that